This video is brought to you by Ridge Wallet, a slim front pocket wallet available in carbon fiber and titanium. With more than 250,000 sold, a lifetime guarantee and free shipping, get 10% off with the code GOLDFISH at ridgewallet.com. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Monday means it's Modern Monday here in Instant Deck Tech land, and we have a really unique Bant list to look at today. I'm calling this one Land Blink Bant, and it starts off looking like a kind of typical Bant company deck, but then it has some really interesting, spicy twists and turns along the way. And this one comes to us from Bruno Garcia Santiago, who took the deck to a top 8 finish in a not that small tournament. I think it was like 103 players or something, which is a pretty reasonable size. So congrats to Bruno on a really cool deck. A quick reminder before we break down Land Blink Bant for Modern. If you enjoy this deck and you'll want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Land Blink Bant starts off looking like a pretty typical Bant Midrange Collected Company deck. We got Collected Company and a million creatures that we can hit with it. So in this deck, Collected Company, we're not really assembling a combo. We have some really cool synergies we're going to talk about later, but we're mostly just playing Collected Company for value, getting a couple of pretty powerful creatures at instant speed for just 4 mana, making it a really good card. We also have a bunch of ramp to get into our Collected Companies and bigger things faster. The full 4 Birds of Paradise, 4 Noble Hierarchs. We follow that up in the 2-drop slot with Qasali Pride Mage, which is kind of interesting in our current Modern format. It kills things like Hollow One. There's some artifact decks running around, decks like Hardened Scales, decks like Affinity, so you get some nice value there. Plus a 2/2 Exalted for 2 is not that bad of a deal anyway. And then Voice of Resurgence, especially good against removal heavy control decks, maybe making some tokens, making huge tokens potentially, and getting in a lot of damage. In the 3-drop slot, we start off with a tried and true combo of Courser of Kruphix and Knight of the Reliquary. So Courser gains us life as lands enter the battlefield, also lets us play lands off the top of our deck. It also does some really cool things with Knight of the Reliquary, which of course gets huge based on the number of lands in our graveyard, lets us sack lands to get more lands. But basically, with Knight of the Reliquary in Courser, we can see the top card of our deck. We can determine if we want to draw it or not. If we want it, then we don't do anything. If we don't want it, we can use Knight to basically shuffle our library and grow the Knight along the way. And we can even fetch out like fetch lands, for example, to shuffle again if we need to. So it's not true card advantage for the most part, but it is a way we can kind of filter through our draws and make sure we're finding the right card for the right situation. Otherwise, we also have 1 Rocks Warmonk, which is pretty good in certain matchups. Against a deck like Burn, a 3/4 lifelink is actually a really huge, almost unbeatable threat. Although, in other matchups, it's not really as exciting. Then we get to the spicy stuff. All the stuff we talked about so far is kind of typical Bant mid-range stuff, but this is where the deck gets really sweet. So we have a bunch of 1-ofs, 1 copy of Ruin Ghost, 1 copy of Tide Force Elemental, and then Lotus Cobra is a 4-of. It's kind of a ramp card. It could be in the Birds of Paradise Noble Hierarch package, but it also works really well with this combo. So Ruin Ghost is a 1/1 for 2 that lets us play a white, tap it to exile a land and then return it to the battlefield under control. We just blink a land. And then Tide Force Elemental is a 3-mana 2/1 that can pay a blue to tap or untap another creature, and then it has landfall. So when a land comes into play, we get to untap Tide Force Elemental. And then Lotus Cobra, of course, makes a mana whenever a land enters the battlefield with its landfall ability. So this gives us a kind of really weird synergy where we can use Ruin Ghost to blink a land, then we can use Tide Force Elemental to untap the Ruin Ghost, and when that land enters the battlefield from Ruin Ghost, we're also untapping that Tide Force Elemental, so we can keep blinking a land over and over again if we have the Lotus Cobra out to keep making mana as the land comes into play. Basically, it's 1 mana to blink a land, and we can do it repeatedly if we have a Lotus Cobra out. So what are we trying to blink with this package? And we have a few different options. So the sweetest one is probably Shajiri Steep, which just gives a creature protection from a color when it enters the battlefield. So we build out this big board of creatures, and then we can just keep blinking Sideboard Steep to give all of our team protection from whatever blockers our opponent has and get in a huge hit of damage and win the game. This also makes it really hard for our opponent ever to kill our stuff with removal. If we leave up our Ruin Ghost with a Sideboard Steep out and at least 1 mana, then we can just wait till our opponent tries to Terminate or Fatal Push or whatever removal spell they have, and then we just blink the Steep, give that creature protection from the right color, and our stuff is just never going to die to targeted removal. We can also just repeatedly blink Halimar Depths to find whatever we need. This is, again, not really card advantage, but really good card selection. We can stack lands with our Courser of Crufix to play them for free, or just dig through our deck, where we find a card we want, we get that card in our draw step, then we're able to shuffle with something like Knight of the Reliquary, and then reset Halimar Depths again to dig for the card we want again. Also, Mystifying Maze, kind of really expensive version of Maze of Ith, but in theory, if we have enough mana, we can activate it for 4 mana, get rid of an attacking creature, blink it with Ruin Ghost, so it's going to come into play untapped, and then we can activate it again to get rid of it another time. So those are our main blink synergy lands, and then we have some stuff to get lands and other stuff back from the graveyard. So Ramanop Excavator just lets us play lands from the graveyard. Eternal Witness, it can get back lands from our graveyard, can also get back other stuff. The same is true of Sun Titan and also Twilight Shepherd. Sun Titan, you know what that one does. It's big, it gets back anything converted mana cost 3 or less. Twilight Shepherd, kinda sweet. When it enters the battlefield, you get to return to your hand all cards that went into your graveyard from play this turn. So in theory, if we are, let's say, tapping and untapping our Knight of the Reliquary, we're able to sack a bunch of lands, then we Twilight Shepherd, then we're able to get all those lands back to our hand, so we're kind of generating this really weird source of card advantage. Plus, we have a big flying vigilance creature, and with our Birds of Paradise, with our Noble Hierarchs, with our Lotus Cobra, and all these land drops, we can ramp into it really quickly. So, what are we trying to get back from our graveyard land-wise? And here we have a couple more sweet options. Gargoyle Castle is pretty spicy. We can pay 5, we can sack it, we get a 3/4 flying artifact creature, and then we can get it back from our graveyard, and we can do it again, and we can make a lot of mana with our shenanigans and our Lotus Cobras. So in theory, in the late game, we can just keep doing this every turn. Get our land back, our Gargoyle Castle with Ramanop Excavator, make another 3/4 flyer, do it again, Ghost Quarter, we just keep getting it back, eating our opponent's lands, and even just getting back fetch lands repeatedly is kind of a nice way to ramp and make sure we're hitting our land drops. So that's the basic plan of the deck. We're kind of a typical Bant deck, but then when these weird, grindy, land blinking, returning shenanigans that make the deck really unique. As far as the rest of the mana base, we have some basic stuff. Temple Gardens, some basic lands, just kind of filler lands to fetch out and make our mana work. As far as the sideboard, we get a bit of removal with Path to Exile and Dramoka's Command. Then we have some Hate Bear style stuff. Gaddock Teeg to shut down big spells, Grand Abolisher really good against counter spells, Kataki for artifact decks, Scavenging Ooze, life gain, and graveyard hate, and then one Garruk Wildspeaker. For some reason, I have no idea why there's one Garruk in this deck, but it's a sweet card. And that is Land Blink Bant for Modern. And that's better it's a deck tech for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.